Hi guys, Joe Klemczewski, founder of the Diet Doc, back with Dr. Kori Probst, and we are finishing up. We have a couple more segments to go with our 5 gears of energetic goal pursuit. Today we're back in the realm of connection. So Kori is going to lead us through exactly what we need to know to build the best connections between ourselves and our clients, even just ourselves and the relationships we have day to day. So I'm looking forward to this one, Kori.
Yes, thank you, Joe. So let's look at connection as a felt sense of belonging. And when we have a supported, robust sense of connection, we feel loved, right? And we feel like we can love at the same time. What connection, or another term for that, is relatedness. What relatedness is not is the feeling that we need to transform or change or shift ourselves in some way in order to fit in. So I want everyone to understand it from that perspective too. It is not that. It is feeling like we can be ourselves and authentic in relationships and loved for exactly that, right? And not judged in some way. And when we're feeling a supported sense of connection or relatedness, we're able to uphold our principles. We're able to coherently move within what we have defined as our values, right? So what it's not, again, is acquiescing every time we're communicating with someone and feeling like we're kind of cowering, or we have to really monitor our words and our language, and we're walking on eggshells because we don't know how we're going to be perceived or in some way. And essentially what happens in a situation like that is our self-esteem shrinks and becomes very reduced. I kind of like to look at this sense of connection as an opportunity to be fiercely honest with whoever we're with in the moment. And, yesterday we kind of talked about brutal honesty. It's not that. Fierce is very different than brutal. Fierce is direct, but it's also compassionate and thoughtful. So, one of the things, just to give a personal example, when I was thinking through, this was post-dissertation, now what am I going to focus on? Because that took so much of my time and energy and effort. And it was, I would like to find a relationship, right? That was very important to me. And so I spent a lot of time reflecting on who I wanted to be in that relationship and the sorts of values that I wanted to bring into it, and the values that this person would have ideally as well. And as I was preparing for this podcast, Joe, I pulled up some old notes that I had written to myself in my journal. And one of the things that I had written down, I'm going to read it here because it really relates to this topic of connection. I had written, this was one of my principles, one of my values that I was going to go into the relationship with. I will, to the best of my abilities, under all circumstances, manage my decisions by my values and share these values with you without resistance to honor an authentic partnership.
I'm just laughing because it sounds like a health psychologist marriage vows.
And perhaps someday those will be in my vows if that should ever happen. But yeah, I spent so much time thinking about and reflecting upon what was going to bring me back to that personal level of fierce honesty, especially when it got difficult. And it's gotten difficult, as any relationship will. But on a practical note, when we feel a felt sense of connection and relatedness, and studies have shown this, we have a greater level of financial success in our lives. We engage in more healthy risk-taking. We experience a greater sense of confidence. We experience more academic achievements, and we have lower blood pressure. These are just a few of the things that studies have shown when we have robust, connected partnerships and relationships, friendships in our lives. Ultimately, what it boils down to is we experience less stress. You know, we have less cortisol coursing through our bodies all the time because we're not feeling like we have to be someone different than we are most of the time.
So let me throw something at you, Kori, and you tell me if there's a process that you use for anything similar.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine who is a mental health therapist, years and years and years ago came up to me and said, hey, I have a question for you, and you can, take your time, just think about it and get back with me. Mm-hmm. But what is it like to be on the other side of me? In our friendship, almost like a survey, what is it like being on the other end of me?
Yeah.
And I thought, not only is that, he's asking for feedback, but I thought even as a precursor to that, mm-hmm. he had to be feeling somewhat discontent in his relationships. He has to be thinking, okay, something's not right. I'm having some conflicts here, and here, or something doesn't feel perfect, on these, spaces. And I think we've all had something similar. I mean, if I'm being a total asshole, or I'm very stressed, or something is happening, it's reflected back in people's responses to me. And I remember at times in my life saying, you know what? I think I really need to make some changes. I don't think my personality is coming across how I want it to. So is there any way that you as a therapist, handle that with other people or get them to do some kind of a self-assessment?
Yeah, totally. I love that question. And it's why in the kind of the promise that I made to myself, I said, to the best of my abilities, because I recognize that there are going to be moments when I'm not being the best person, the most kind, compassionate, calm, gentle, loving person. And it's going to depend on the context and how much sleep I've gotten and what else is going on in my life and what my responsibilities are that particular day. So one of the first things I will do is help my clients to understand that they can't always be at the top of their game in regards to that sort of behavior. Like, we're not going to be 100% saints all the time. So can we be gentle with just allowing ourselves to be human? And can we foster and look for relationships in which the other people too are, I guess a good word would be maybe lenient or understanding, because they're just the same. They're not perfect either. But I love that your friend had the courage to ask that question. And that is something that I ask my clients to do. First, I ask them to consider, is there someone in your life right now that you really trust? That if they said something to you that doesn't feel good or it's gonna sting a little bit, you'd be okay. And then it wouldn't be contentious because there is a foundation of safety with this person. Don't go find someone that you don't like very much and ask them, because that person probably is going to be brutally honest and maybe does have the intention of hurting your feelings. So first and foremost, go to someone that you trust. And then be very honest. Like, I want to understand maybe what the unbecoming parts of me are and how it is to be with me. And, in conflict and when we're not in conflict. Because it's going to be very telling. We walk around with blinders on and we want to see ourselves in the most positive light. But to be able to go to someone and get real, generative, honest, but not brutal feedback can give us information in order to be able to change. Then If we have that information, we can just start taking an assessment, just start observing ourselves in a different way throughout our various days and throughout different responsibilities and within different relationships. Where do we feel most comfortable and feel that sense of belonging? With who? Why? Under what situations or circumstances? What conditions put us in that optimal position of, like, we can just breathe, we feel grounded, you know?
You know, Kori, I do know, just for an absolute fact, people who are in the fitness coaching or life coaching industry, and this is universal. I mean, you could be a TV repairman or an Uber driver, but when you have that generous spirit, like we talked about yesterday, and you are intentionally creating connections with people, there is such a release of just any power hierarchy, power dominance type stuff that just happens between people. And it's an attractive thing. And so as we're talking about fitness entrepreneurship in this series, I think, again, how as a professional, fitness or otherwise, do you want to create that whole basis for relationships with your clients, coworkers, staff? And we could talk about even personal things, like you started out with your personal relationships, but it takes so much intentional effort, and the whole point that you brought up in, this is something that must be reflected upon. This is not something normal. Nobody just walks through their day and thinks these things. It has to be part of your process of being a better person or a better professional. Yeah.
So exactly what you said, Joe. Just ask yourself that question and don't expect an answer right away. I had a conversation with one of my mindset and motivation coaches recently, and we were talking about how we'll often ask our clients a question and not expect that they answer us at all. It's an invitation for them to ask themselves that and just live into the answer, because the experience of living is going to provide the answer to them as they observe. And so here I want to list a few things that maybe the coaches out there or individuals who are pursuing a goal can engage in or make a part of their process to put themselves in the position to be able to live into the answer to that question.
Awesome.
One of the first things is to invite support, right? So that just means arrange check-ins with people, like the therapist that you're friends with. He invited your support, quite literally, in acquiring new information about himself. The second one is to set an example. We know that the individuals who feel most connected to their goals in an intrinsic way, internally motivated way, but who also feel a greater sense of connection with others or the world at large, right? They are finding ways to contribute. So when I say set an example, they're thinking of how their behavior, how their actions, how the way that they think, who they are is influencing other people in a positive way. The third thing is to create shared meaning. So, I could set cycling goals by myself. That's not nearly as connecting as when I get a riding buddy and now we're training for an event next year. So we're sharing, we don't live in the same place. We rarely can ride together side by side, but we're riding together in spirit, and then we can share what's happening as we're training together. So finding ways to create shared meaning with people. The fourth thing is to collaborate, right? So it means setting goals with others and then discussing them. Like what are the wins we're experiencing? What are the difficulties? What are the things that are coming up as we're going through the process and reflecting on what we're doing and why we're doing it and who it's affecting or not affecting that maybe we want it to? The fifth one is to feel respected. We can't force anyone to respect us, but if we're engaging in an energetic goal pursuit in an open, kind of ready, compassionate, considerate manner, others are going to take notice, right? They're going to feel that optimistic energy from us, and it's going to generate respect and admiration from them. And many people are going to express that. Oh my gosh, how are you doing what you're doing? That's just so amazing. You're so inspiring to me. When that happens, guys, don't shrug it off. Don't be like, oh, I screw up all the time. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Accept the compliment and feel how amazing that is to get that positive feedback from that person. Let it sink into your bones. Feel the respect. Okay. The next one is I've got 3 more. Yearn for intimacy. And what I mean by that is it's not a grasping. It's not like, I need people. It's a very positive sense of like, I'm open to opportunities to be vulnerable with another person. So that's what I mean when I say intimacy. It's vulnerability, to be real and authentic with another human, even animal. The next one is to pursue perspective, and that's just to, like your friend did, approach other people in order to learn from them. And then maybe to see if you can look at whatever your experience is through their lens and their experience. And then finally, it's to lean on other people. And I don't know very many people who are good at this. To ask for help, genuinely, like, give control over to another person or delegate something to either save your energy or to be able to generate more energy. So those would be the 8 things that I can say can really put you in a position to create a higher level of connection for yourself and to live into the questions, to work into the answers of what this means for me.
Awesome. So I want to summarize for us lay people and give a shout out from the introvert corner, because creating connection for us isn't always as easy. So, some of these points are phenomenal. And when you got to the one about vulnerability, I immediately thought of my own lifelong, I wouldn't say struggle, but lifelong goal of being more engaged with people, because my favorite thing to do is I'm just in the background watching everything. And it's an extra step to actually go pursue engagement or involvement with somebody else, even something so benign like, in the line at the airport or something. But, it has such a ripple effect. I'll give one quick story and then I'll let you close out the episode, Kori. But I remember, I'll go back to the airport scenario. I was sitting there waiting for somebody I had not met yet. I'm at this airport. I'm just meeting with this guy. We knew each other, but first face-to-face conversation we're going to have. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I saw this little old couple struggling. Like, they had this gigantic, big Ford F-150 pickup truck, and this little old couple had these gigantic suitcases. And so, you kind of look at them a little bit, and I'm like, damn, I should probably go help those people. So I go over there and introduce myself, and hey, let me help you, and I do this stuff. And so I'm in the back of their truck hauling up their big bags, and I think the old guy was even like in a sling or something. I have no idea how they were going to do this.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was great. They just were so thankful that somebody helped them. And so I, go back to my seat or whatever. And a few minutes later, my friend comes out of baggage claim. He goes, "Was that just you in the back of that truck?" And it became a funny thing, because he thought, for years after, he would bring this up, that, the first time I ever met Joe Klemzeski, he's in the back of a stranger's pickup truck just helping these people. And that created a great, meaningful part of our relationship. But I got to say that even something like that is a struggle for people who would just rather, kind of watch the world instead of participate.
Well, and I think part of that too is because it's not that introverts don't want to be involved. It's not that they don't want to connect with people. It's just that they have a different window of tolerance for how much connection there is and how much socialization.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you, I have a tipping point to where I'm like, I'm out, guys. Like I've been on. I know where, at what point the energy is draining from me, as opposed to being social and connected is like energizing me. There's a tipping point. But in that moment, like, it's not that you don't want to help or contribute. You're one of the kindest, most generous people I know. But And I think it's just a matter of, can I widen that window just a little bit more? I think people are worried that if they do advance towards someone or approach someone to offer help, for example, like you did, that they're going to get in their way or be a burden, or like they don't know, they just want to do their own thing. Like I'm just going to mess up their plans, whatever it is. But most individuals love that.
We are humans are so social, and I recognize this in other introverts. Like, there's almost this kind of standoff, and you'll never ever regret. I constantly challenge myself to take those steps of engagement, and it's never something you regret. It's always a window to a relationship that you just don't have, and on both parties' sides, it's almost sad that more of that doesn't happen. That we all crave so much connection; it means so much to us, but then we just don't take the time or risk that vulnerability.
Well, and I think it can, and we just need to be more deliberate about it. Like you are. You've said, I recognize this about myself, and it's another step. I commit to taking that step. If every time we had that little thought like, no, don't do it, and we use that as a cue to do it, imagine how much more love and compassion and vulnerability and connection there would be in the world. Don't listen to the first thought.
Which was exactly one of your points from yesterday's podcast. So, all right, all you guys who are in the life coaching or fitness coaching world, again, Kori is going through some major content that she conducted research on in her doctoral process. So, very good stuff, you guys. We're gonna continue putting some of these details in the show notes, all the lists and points, and a lot of this is going to show up in a book that we're going to bring out next year. So, look for that in the future. But thank you guys so much for your time and attention, and Kori for your expertise as always.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, guys, we will catch you next time.
Bye, guys.